Welcome to the David Spisak Show. I apologize. If you're looking at this on video, I'm smiling already. And if you're not looking at this on video, if you're listening in, first and foremost, thank you for taking the time out of your day. You know, I always endeavor to deliver massive value, and I have the ability, I believe, to do that consistently because I'm fortunate enough to talk to some of the most extraordinary, innovative thought leaders, dealers, and technology solutionists in the country, and today is no exception. Today, I'm very fortunate. This is a very long time coming. We've been talking about this, but I've got the one and only Jeremy Beaver, who is the CEO of the Grande Dealership Group that is based in San Jose, California. You're still San Jose, right? You haven't gotten fancy and moved to Walnut Creek or something, have you?
I like this intro. I mean, I should do this every day if this is going to be my intro. We want to roll.
Well, listen, it's well-deserved. And I just want to start off by thanking you. There's a lot of reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast, Jeremy. And one of them is just really to pick your brain. You are well-renowned, I believe, for being consistently one of the most forward-leaning, tech-savvy, innovative people and dealership groups around the country. So I want to get into all of that just because, you know, obviously those two great gigantic letters AI seem to be hanging like a fog over the industry right now, not in a bad way, in a good way, I think, but there's a lot of layers there, and I think there's nobody better than you I could speak to about that. But before we get there, my friend, I want to kind of rewind the tape. I want to go back, and I want to introduce, for people that are listening in, I'm always fascinated to learn how did you get here, and frankly, a lot of people in our industry, they may be valets, porters, they may be technicians, salespeople, or in the business office. But as you know, one of the great things about this business, Jeremy, is like me, you've undoubtedly met a lot of people in this industry that were young, started out in some position at a store, and ended up elevating into being fixed directors or CFOs or dealers or like you, the CEO of a great organization. So would you be kind enough to just let everybody know, first of all, how in the heck did you end up, of all things, in the retail automotive space?
Well, I feel like I hit the lotto, and we've been friends for a long time, so you've been a critical part of my journey as well. But you know, right out of high school, you know, I always loved working, and what I did find is I didn't really love school as much as maybe I should. My mom was a teacher for 20 plus years, so I maybe probably should have been better in school as we went through. And then my dad was kind of a startup tech guy, and you know, some worked, but probably more of them failed than anything else. And coming out of high school, I think the one thing I did know is that I just wasn't really set to go to college. I just didn't like kind of the book reading, which is so crazy today because all I want to do is learn and read and do all that today. But back when you're a 17-year-old kid, you want to, you know, start doing whatever. And I had already had a couple like random jobs. I had, you know, worked at a school uniform place. I was hosting kids' parties at like a Chuck E. Cheese. I had washed cars at Enterprise. I loved going to work. Like that's what I knew. And so I got to meet a guy that was at an old school Dodge dealer at Glen Hartsheim Dodge in San Jose, California. You actually know the story, who was, you know, bless his heart, has passed away, but he was just, you know, he was a car dealer, and he was, you know, hardcore, and it was the car business stories and all of those different things. And I started in a BDC in a brick room without any windows, making 200 cold calls a day out of a phone book. And that was how I started my car business career, making calls, trying to get people with a script from Tom Stuker, believe it or not. You know, the guy who's flown the most United miles. Tom Stuker, really well, owe him a lot too. And I just started making cold calls, and I found that while it was a super grindy job, I was really good at it. And I love making the calls. I love getting people in, helping them buy a new car, getting them to the sales representatives. And so that was the start of my car business career. And I did that for a couple years, kind of worked my way up, really enjoyed it, was working a lot of hours. My parents probably still not happy with me at this point, should have gone to college. Now I'm telling them cold calling out of a phone book.
We're
They're like,
so
what the heck did
proud.
we do wrong? And yeah, so proud. They're like, yeah, this is going to be tricky. And then I got an opportunity to join a tech company in San Francisco. They had it was called Jumpstart Automotive. They had just moved it from a garage in Napa. Some really incredible guys, which is actually how you and I originally kind of at least heard of each other. With Mitch Lowe and Dylan McDermott and Aaron Nichols and Rob Bollinger, all those guys. Had taken this kind of startup idea and moved it to Pier 39 in San Francisco. And I started driving from South San Jose to Pier 39 every day for a couple years, selling leads, selling search engine marketing, display advertising when it was not cool or wasn't known as a thing. And did that for quite a while, and then ended up a couple years and ended up that they were going to be selling that business, and I was going to go work for Sonic Automotive, doing some work at some stores that were here in the Bay Area. And the day before I did that, I met a guy by the name of Dennis Billings, who you also know. Actually, hey, you know what? Now this story's actually all coming back to you.
Yes.
Now that I think about it, like this crazy triangle. And I met Dennis Billings, and he said, hey, you got to talk to Sean Delgrand and Lori Johnson, who was leading training. And I ended up meeting with him, and I met Sean Delgrand, who had 2 or 3 stores at the time. And he said, hey, I don't really have a job for you, but you can work for Dennis. And Dennis was like, I want you on the team. And the rest was kind of history to come help grow what was not DGDG at the time, but a couple stores. And I got to join here as an internet director, 15 years ago, 14 years ago, 16 years ago. And then I started here, and my office, where I'm sitting today, was Sean's old office. And my office was directly next door to Sean's. And, he was here working 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And I said, hey, like, if he can do that, so can I. And so I tried to just outwork him, which was pretty tricky back in that day. Show up early, leave late, and just do anything I could to help support our team. And then that was kind of the history. And so then we built our e-commerce platform, our technology strategies, our growth of our business. But really was through so many amazing people over my career that, have kind of catapulted where we are today. And that's, that was the journey to at least get me to DGDG.
It's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary story. And if we did this every day, in this industry and put the word out on these stories like yours, I don't think we'd ever have a problem recruiting or getting people interested in this industry. It is literally, don't you agree? It is literally like no other out there.
Yeah, I think it's like the coolest thing is this industry is because of that. And I think like everyone, they do ask, and I don't consider myself some like crazy successful guy or whatever. We have, these teams and all of this stuff that has really helped build where we are today. But when I think about it, the one thing that I always just tell people, which is really where you're leading, is nothing in this industry replaces this hard work concept, which is I just love. Like, I love going to work. And so, hearing these stories that, I get jazzed and jacked up when I hear guys that are working hard and want to put in the time and effort, because I do believe this is one of the very few industries that are left that what you put in is what you can get out. And so that's why it's so exciting. I think even to this day, in all the cool stuff, if you work hard and you are the right person, the fruits of your labor will be shown.
One of the things I do want to touch on, Jeremy, and I appreciate you sharing that. And by the way, a big shout out and big respect to Dennis Billings. I had the pleasure of meeting Dennis years and years ago, probably 1991, I want to say almost 25 years ago. And just a quintessential gentleman, professional, class act, just the greatest guy in the world. Love that guy. And Sean, obviously, I mean, you hit the jackpot there as well. It's interesting, when you think about that with Dennis and Sean, if they were not those people, we're not talking. I mean, think about that. It wasn't bravado that got you here from those guys. It wasn't hubris that got you here from those guys. It wasn't audacity. It wasn't, the watches they were wearing or anything else. It was who they are as people, and it's still who they are as people, right?
Yeah, these are the most humble individuals you could ever imagine. Obviously, Sean Dogran, the enterprise and all the different stuff. Like if he's the guy you want to go have a beer with at the bar, you wouldn't even know. Dennis Billings, the greatest human alive. I mean, the nicest family man. I mean, it's just like, I think you said it absolutely best. Like I hit the absolute jackpot for two guys that took a chance on me and then really provided a growth opportunity and mentorship and then really enabled me to have that from so many people along the way. As you know, Sandy Schwartz and Nick Peluso and like all these guys that are just like being able to have access to people that I never knew existed in the world. I am very, very blessed to be able to even have conversations
and
like
likewise,
we are today.
incredibly nice guys, understated, humble. I mean, just nice guys. So there's some very, very nice, genuinely nice men and women in this business, and they are the best part of our business. And I learned a long time ago, Jeremy, that when you meet the wrong people, they are the ones that don't want to share information. They don't want you to advance. They don't want you to get ahead. They don't want you. But when you're with the right people, they're willing to literally open the book and show you all their secrets, how they got there. They are looking for somebody, frankly, smarter than them. They are looking for somebody who they understand. If I bring somebody on who's talented, who will work hard, they're going to make me look good. They're going to improve the results of my organization. They're not worried about their own ego, right? They're not. It's just, don't you find that to be true?
Well, that is my number one job in my life today. Is just find people that are smarter than me, have them on the team. That's what we're focused on. I mean, believe me, I make more mistakes than anyone in this industry. We try stuff, it doesn't work. We have ideas, they don't pan out. And so, yeah, it's really neat when you get to work with so many incredible people. And I think for us at DGDG, that's great. But even more so, what I'd say is kind of what I love the most is what you just described is all of these amazing people that are in the industry that we then meet and get to collaborate with and get to hang out with because it's such a unique business. And there are some just world-class human beings that have really changed my life, but also we're helping shape where the industry is going to be.
Okay, so before we jump forward, tell me one thing that stands above everything else that was a big takeaway from your time at Jumpstart that you brought forward into the industry and maybe you even still use today.
Yeah, I think it's probably from the technology side is that I probably move at a different pace than a lot of people, or that's what at least Sean says. I'm hyper efficient. I'm a modern tech. I like to break things. Like I'm definitely focused more on kind of where the consumer should be in the future. It doesn't necessarily mean I think and Jumpstart was way ahead of its time. And so what I mean by that is today, when we think about building tech or where we need to go, it doesn't mean you need to take people from 0 to 100 because not all dealerships need to get there in that same piece. It's really making sure that we bring all along for that ride. And so one of the phrases that I really focus on right now is reduce to simple. And so even in the most complex items, the most complex tech, the most complex, business strategies, what I really need to do as a leader is make sure that everyone understands so that they can be on that same journey and that they can be rowing in that same boat, whether, they are the leader of it or whether they're in the support realm. That's a really big deal. And I think those guys at Jumpstart, they had, tons of crazy ideas. They had things that hadn't been seen in automotive before, but they understood that they actually had to sell leads or they had to sell advertising to go do this, or they had to go, get the data sets for, to go on consumer journeys to do these things. And so they were very tech focused, non-automotive guys, but learned the nuances of automotive relatively quickly. And that's where I think, having teams that can be able to, bring everyone along for the ride is a really, really critical function that I learned.
And I'll give him credit for for at least one other. I'm sure you'll sign off to this one. But having such incredible conviction in belief that what you have, despite the fact that it was ahead of its time, despite the fact most people didn't know it, didn't understand it, perhaps, but it just was such a mission for them. Like, it'd be wrong for them to not make sure that dealers were aware of this, that their success really came from the fact that they had so much conviction that they were doing the right thing on behalf of those dealers. And the second thing I take away is every one of those people that I worked with, I knew when they hired me to help consult and advise for them, they've gone on to other things and they're all incredibly successful. And my point there is that, you know, they were able to, these were just highly successful, driven, work hard all day, every day, one vision, kind of a group of people. And although they've gone in different directions, that has stayed with them. They're just all incredibly successful people.
They are incredibly brilliant individuals. And then I think if you go exactly on that, I think one of my other life lessons during this time is these guys were not trying to like build this to sell this to be like the most rich guys or like to go buy Ferraris or like, it wasn't like, I mean, I remember Mitch Lowe would come in and I was working there and this guy's a CEO and he is, you know, majority owner and he's coming in flip-flops with his surfboard, driving his Honda Element or Pilot or whatever. And I was like, this is kind of insane. Like, this guy has like, can do whatever he wants. And then they ended up exiting and whatever. And then he just went right back to work. And he was like, I'm going to do something else cool again with people that I want to do it with. And I think, you know, there's a lot to be said about, you know, that deal. And so, you know, I don't think he has to work, or maybe I know he doesn't have to work, but like, he goes to work and he's a worker, but he's just even more of an incredible human. And all of the guys that were around him are as special. You know, you've met Aaron Nichols. I mean, one of the, you know, greatest humans alive as well. Caring, lovable, you know, just an unbelievable friend and father. And so, you know, these are just great people. And I think that's also a lesson in life. Like, if you're going to go to work and you want to work hard and, you know, we want to work hard and play hard, we want to do it with people that we can do. And so it's like, you know, Del Grant and I just got off the phone with him. He's living his best life. And like, I talk to him every day of my life. Like, how cool is it to work with your best friend? Like, it's cool. It's awesome.
Shout out to your mom also for, I mean, it may have taken a little while, but the love for education did finally take root in you, and it's alive and well. and lo and behold, right. The kid that didn't want one more year of school, I had to get out. I don't want any more college. I don't want college. Is completely immersed into learning every day. That's kind of cool. And to your father, what's interesting to me is the fact that he was in tech, and in some small way that probably lit some kind of opened a little gateway pathway there. But the other part of that is you happen to mention specifically that maybe not that he was prone to failure, but he, you know, things didn't work. And so when you walk into an environment like that and things don't work, there's some people that would run out of the building, Jeremy. But when you're brought up in that home, and where you learn that failure could be your best friend, failure is the gateway to success, it is the gateway to learning, you know, it caused you undoubtedly to look at things. And every single one of those little things ultimately brought you to the very position you are right now. It's pretty extraordinary, right? And here you are, yet another kid with no college, who had no plans to be in the car business, now is leading another really great organization in our industry. What is it in your mind that makes DGDG different, that makes DGDG special? And I don't mean special in that, hey, we're better than everybody else. I just mean what makes you unique or different? What has fueled this organization?
Yeah, well, we're definitely not better than anyone else. We may just do things a little bit differently, but that doesn't make it better. And we know what we say is our way doesn't mean it's the right way. It's just how we go to business in each one of those. And I would say it's really, you know, at right now with from between Sean's dad Kevin and Sean, everything starts and ends with our culture, right? We say every single day that our focus is on our 1,000 team members having opportunity for growth, feeling appreciated, awards and accolades, all the different things. And so that's what we do. We have 4 core values at DGDG, and they're in a very, very specific order. Number 1 is integrity. So there's never the right time to do the wrong thing. We never really have to talk about it because I guess it's soccer. I'm not a big soccer guy, but Sean is. So yellow cards and red cards, like we don't have to give a lot of red cards out here, but there's just, no lying, cheating, stealing. As we go forward, number 2 is care. So caring. And that starts with our team every single day, but then it goes to our guests. But if we have our team that is, feeling appreciated, wants to come to work, knows that we're looking for their best interests, then they can provide a world-class guest experience. And so those are really kind of the 2 operating principles. From there, number 3 is performance. So we are a high-performance driven organization, but it is not win at all costs. So you cannot be a high performer at DGDG unless you have high integrity or you care for our team and our guests, right? So we've, very rarely do we have situations, but there have been times when we have had top performers who have done the right thing or not done the right thing, and they unfortunately are not with us even though they're top performers. That's not necessarily how it always works in the car business, but that's a real good principle. And the number 4 is efficiency. And efficiency for us is really through technology. And so while I've explained everything around culture, which also has to do with our 4 core values, number 2 is tech. So culture and tech. When you have unbelievable people that are here and want to learn and grow and will try new stuff, then you can introduce a lot of technology. But the technology is only good, in our opinion, as the people that use it. So it's this very crazy balance of you can't go build all this crazy, stuff and then no one, uses it with our guests, or they don't feel like it's making their job easier, or, you can't have those different pieces. And so we really do try to have that fine balance. But what that also creates is exactly how you describe my life is when things don't work out. No one's really surprised around here anymore because they know we're going to try stuff that may or may not work. They're not like, we can tell them crazy ideas and they're like, yeah, like that sounds great, but probably not going to work. But hey, let's try it. And so we have this fail fast mentality that is very inclusive. And I think that has also brought us all closer as an organization. And when you have 1,000 team members, you've got to be really careful for us. That we don't just have the teams get to, being a number or feel like they can't connect to me or they can't be connected to Sean. And so I think we try really hard to do a good job at communication. But what we hear every year, and we've won Top Workplace, 13 years in a row in Silicon Valley outside of automotive, which is our driver, they still say, like, we want more communication. We want more of this. And we feel like we do more and more and more, but they still want to continue to hear the direction of where we're going. And so we really focus on that as a team. And so that's the foundation of who we are. It sounds really simple when I say it in 4 minutes. But it's like, it is work every day to make sure that everyone knows that we're in this together. And that's actually, and we're in Drive DGDG. This is our theme this year is us driving together. We say Drive DGDG, let's go together. And that's who we are. And so we really make sure that we are focused on us being one team.
I love that. It's interesting that the more technology that comes out, and obviously you can easy place to think about, easy aspect of this to think about is social media. Social media simultaneously brings people together and pushes people apart. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it allows people to be connected easier than ever before, but makes it harder than ever for people to stay close face to face, really with that human contact. And I would imagine that one of the other things that are near and dear to your heart, in Sean's heart, and always on your mind is that balance you're speaking of. How do we continue to embrace technology, to be willing to fail, to have, so to speak, an innovation mindset, R&D mindset? Dealerships typically don't have an R&D department or innovation department. They should, but they don't. But how do we do that in a way that doesn't lose the human contact internally with the team or externally with that client. There's one thing AI for certain will never be able to do, and that is to create and nurture a relationship, a genuine relationship, right? Could do a lot of things, but it can't do that. So as you think about technology today, and obviously, you've got CDPs that have been out for a number of years now. AI really started in earnest a couple of years ago, but it is evolving at a breakneck speed. And I was sharing with a dealer recently that I couldn't imagine signing up for any AI tool that was on an annual agreement. How could I possibly do that when it's completely possible that 3 months from now, something better, faster, cheaper is going to be like, why would I do that? But what is your mindset with regards now to technology when you sit, and I know you're knee deep in this all the time. So you're thinking about, where do we go from here? How do we leverage something as powerful as AI and do it in a way that is not at the cost of the core and the culture of DGDG?
Yeah, I think there's two things. So I think the first one is that we are at DGDG, we have to run a for-profit business, so we have that already, right? So we have a core business that needs to operate. We do, obviously a lot of work in the tech space, whether it's building our own, investing in tech startups, partnering with companies. We do a lot of that stuff. When it comes to the AI CDP, that's the ultimate buzzword. I know NADA, if that's not when transparency was a couple years ago or whatever.
I named it NADA.ai this year.
.ai, right? That's going to be it. I think what we are most focused on, and we're working on some really cool CDP stuff right now. But what I would say is, I think what the engine that really everyone is still trying to figure out is what I'm just going to call is normalized data. And everyone wants to use the buzzwords. Everyone wants to use all these different engines, and they want to have AI or agentic AI. They want to have this learning model. But what really has to happen, in my opinion, is these either dealers, marketplaces, DMSs, OEMs, the AI is as valuable, or will be as valuable as it can be, when we get to one normalized data set. And I think that is where everyone continues to be lost today, which is everyone wants to add AI onto the back of their product, yet they're getting a data set over here to use AI. And then they're using another one to get service scheduling AI, and then chatbot AI. And they're trying to do all of these different things. And it all really needs to live where everything is pushing and pulling and then learning on this normalized structure of data. And that's a really, really big piece for us. Today we use Azure as our data lake. We use structured, unstructured data, normalize all that to really operate a lot of those fields. But that is where you can now run marketing. You can run consumer journeys. You can run scheduling. You can run, conversations. You can that's where we think that there is still I'm going to call it a long way to go. But exactly what you said, the breakneck speed of what it is accelerating at is unlike anything we've ever done and what we've ever seen. And not because it's automotive going that way. It's because the world is accelerating that way, which is great to see historically. And David, you and I have talked about this for years, which is we're always 5 years behind. We're 8 years behind. We're 10 years behind in automotive. Well, now you don't have the option but to be 1 year or 2 years behind the rest of the world, because this is what consumers and businesses are operating on. And so we're at a really unique time. But the number one driver that we are focused on is normalized data to run these CDP and AI models. That's our number one focus today.
So there's an awful lot to unpack in there, my friend.
As
there
always.
Is a lot of nuggets in there, a lot to unpack. So I'm going to start with this. We have been plagued for decades in this industry by a closed API environment and disparate systems. Fair statement? Okay, now we're about to be plagued by open API and AI-driven disparate systems. That's exactly what you said. I mean, the fact that AI comes into the mix, but if you still have data that it is coming from disparate systems, you have not solved the core problem. Is that a fair statement? And
that's exactly right. And I think that's from not only dealers, but obviously our OEM partners to vendors to, I mean, it is an ecosystem
Yeah,
problem. That is
I
for
totally
sure.
agree with that. So, not surprisingly, there are more and more dealership groups, predominantly. These are not small dealers or individual dealers that are taking on the task of creating a data lake. For those that aren't really familiar with what a data lake or CDP is, because you brought up normalizing data, trying to get everything together. I mean, the data lake essentially, just so everybody understands, you wouldn't mind just sharing with them what exactly did you do with respect to inside the house of DGDG?
Yeah, so we essentially built our own kind of internal data lake structure where we take data from like our partners at CDK, different marketplace vendors, different customer data, different supply and demand indexes. We build everything and it goes into essentially one data repository would be the easiest way to describe that. And then the data can flow from there in what is called unstructured or structured data. So sometimes you get different feeds, but you only need one of the different fields that are there. So you still need to store the data, but you only need to query one set of that data that's there. Or sometimes you need to match data in a very safe environment. And sometimes you're not allowed to match data because of, CCPA or California compliance rules of customers and all those different things. And then we move that into what is more of a usable format, which would be more of like a CDP, a customer data, availability, and whether that pushes out into marketing components or different silos of customer views. Like we believe that needs to be the deal, and that's I think one of the largest problems today is. Again, think about businesses like NADA, and we are wonderful partners of theirs, and I know that team well. They started the NADA data sharing agreement with the dealers and the OEMs. Well, it's great, and we've really made wonderful strides there. Except for the problem is the OEMs have no way to get the dealer data, and the data is from the dealers. They have no way to get it there, and so there's no real good pass back other than saying we're going to share it from
It's the
one
proverbial,
source. And
yeah,
if you think about
it is the new age mission statement. When you had dealerships or businesses that here's our mission statement, but oftentimes there's so many organizations that they can't live up to their own mission statement. and that really felt like a vision statement or mission statement, but it is at this point, and it's an unimaginable,
Correct. And that's not a fault of really. I mean, if you had a single, if we had David and Jeremy's, Ford store today, I mean, how could you ever get to a place where you would say like how you get structured data, unstructured data? Like you need the resources and tools, and you need to be able to like say, hey, this is how this should work. And I think so. I think that is. We're not going to go create an evolution or a revolution alone at DGDG. But as you mentioned, I think we can be a part of the solution. And again, one of the coolest things about this business is having partners. And you think about companies like NADA or our OEM partners and vendors, we all need to come to the table and say, like, this is what we need to work on together and have normalized data flow, normalized data sets, and this is how you can actually receive and send data. That will be incredibly helpful, I think, in the future. And we need to move there sooner rather than later if we're not going to be left behind yet again in another technology front for, retail business.
I agree. There's a whole other thing too. I mean, you talk about trust and transparency in the real world, face to face, but that has to exist in the AI world as well, in the data world as well, right? I mean, it's of my opinion. I don't think that it's anything shocking to say. It's not exactly TMZ material that there is a lack of trust and transparency with the OEMs. The OEMs in my mind, they do a lot of good things, but they expect and demand transparency from every dealer partner they have. They don't necessarily do a great job of giving that back. There is a lack of transparency. And while I respect their right and their ability to do what they have to do as a business, and there's certain things you have to protect, I think until or unless we get to a point where we could take that tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, because there's not only have we had silos and walls with data, we've had floors between 1, 2, and 3 that there's disconnects, don't you think?
Well, I think that's exactly right. And I think that I would say the OEMs, when you do talk to a lot of the leadership team, like, everything that you and I are talking about, they really understand and do believe in this. It's just now a matter of getting there. These are legacy businesses that have been around for a long time and not necessarily been based on tech. And then you think about the systems that these dealerships operate on, whether it's an OEM, submitting retail deliveries or warranty submissions, like all of this other stuff. It's definitely built over long, periods of time that is not necessarily modern tech forward. And so they have a concept of getting there, but we're just not there today. And I think the more connected the OEMs are to the dealers through tier 1 through tier 3, which is whether it's consumer shopping trends, whether it's, ability to register vehicles or create my garage type formats, this is where we're going to be able to go forward in leaps and bounds ahead from where we've been. But it doesn't just take car dealerships. It's not just dealers, or it's not just like, Cars Commerce, who's working on some really incredible data sets right now. Like, it's not just for one person to do. If you're going to operate proper CDPs or proper data lakes, you need all together as one. Then you can really utilize, call it modern day tech. You can't just use one and not 10 of the others. Then you're using not a bad set of data, but you're using 10% of the data. Incomplete data.
And
exactly
incomplete
a better word.
Data sets are no different than bad data sets. It's the same outcome.
It gets tricky. And I think that's where the AI model will only spit out what the data is given or utilized. And then and even when it spits out, what are you going to do with it is the next thing. And, one of my really good friends who actually advises for us, he said data without a denominator is your largest problem. So, sometimes guys are like, I need more data, I need more reports, I need more whatever. Well, if you don't know what you're trying to get to or how you're going to use it, then it's actually irrelevant because you're just getting reports then. And so it's like, data overload can also be a real problem here in the future if you don't have a structure where it becomes performance.
I agree. At some point, you got to go back to what you said earlier, where you said reduce to simple. That applies to the data. We have to allow things to happen in a way to where we can have a high degree of efficacy from our people, where they're actually using it and they're leaning into it and they're embracing it. There's so much attached to all of this with AI. And by the way, you mentioned vendors and Cars Commerce just now. One of the things I appreciate about Alex Vetter and that team of people is they are unequivocally partners and not vendors. Their approach to some of the things that they do without a camera on. You mentioned, there's never a right time to do the wrong thing. I really respect organizations, any organization that does exactly that, does the right thing when nobody's looking, does the right thing. It's not for marketing purposes or promotional purposes. And I've always felt that he and that team has always been a true partner. They are on the dealership side. They took a different tack than the other aggregators out there. What are some of the things that you don't have to go into specifics necessarily, but what are some of the things that excite you about, like, the data sets that they are leaning in to help DGDG to be able to create?
Yeah, well, I think I first will double down. I think that Vetter, I've known him for a long time, but he has been very, very intentional on support for dealers.
From the beginning.
And I think that is not always easy. It's not, it's not maybe always favorable with everyone, but it is on, like, he is there to build businesses that help people. He cares about it. He is hyper engaged. He's passionate. So, like, obviously, we're massive fans of Vetter, but also the culture that has been created on him, with his team, right? Because you can always have this top down and one guy says something, but then it doesn't go through. And that team, like, cares, and they're doing those things from the businesses they built and bought and whatever. I think from our standpoint, like, we believe that marketplaces are really critical. And we believe that, as these kind of larger scale businesses like Cars Commerce have these, all these different arms and tentacles that can help automotive, that combining data sets is, really vital to the consumer journey. So think about using things like marketplace data of people that are shopping for cars that never transact, people that are shopping for cars that, we have lookalike or match audiences in our market. Think about, one of the things that I think maybe I'm known for saying, which is like, when is the last time you submitted a lead for anything in your life that's not car related? Like, you don't go to websites anymore and submit your leads. And so, while that's great, that's how a lot of people still go to shop for a car on a marketplace. What's more valuable if, 1% of traffic shops for a car and submits a lead? What's more valuable is the 99% of other people that are in market and shopping like a normal human would do for anything else. And so how do you utilize those audiences? How do they get data monetization off that? But how could a single point or normal dealer utilize it to better market into their PMA or DMA? And then more likely, or even more valuable, is how do they pass that back to the OEM? For build data, for incentives, for rebates, for retention. Like, there's a lot more in the ecosystem that I think goes to waste today that just needs to be in a better flow in this kind of captured circle than is really, driven today. And I think that at least I can speak for, I don't, speak for Vetter or not, but like, they are focused on how do all boats rise? And that is, I think, super fun for us, because at DGDG, we want to try a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't mean it works, but like, why not like get some findings and some learnings? And they've been amazing.
Back in the days when I was fortunate enough to be leading the Smythe team, which is where I first met Sean. It was the old Stevens Creek marketing, dealer marketing committee that we do these meetings. And I think, was it Oak Tree Mazda back then? The great Oak Tree Mazda.
It. You know it.
Yeah.
Good memory.
Wonderful memories back then. But one of the things I really loved about our culture at Smythe is whatever direction the industry was seemingly running, we said, let's go this way. It was immaterial what everybody was chasing. Let's just go another way, because over there is average. Over there was common. Over there was traditional. Over there was normal. And none of those words produce legendary results, right? None of those words produce a story that anybody really is going to care to hear about. And, I wanted to bring that up because it's very unusual. I love what you just brought up. Everybody's going out and chasing leads because those people are in market. But the reality is, those are the people that, if you finish the sentence, that are seen to be in market now. Everybody's in market. They're going to be in market 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. I'm always telling salespeople, so if I said to you, I'm not in market right now, but I am going to buy something in October of next year, you're not interested in me? Like, don't you want me to be their first sale of October 2026? And it's so interesting that we have this mentality in most dealerships to where they go out and they get leads, they buy leads, they spend advertising to create leads, and you give them to your salespeople. Your salespeople will close approximately 8% of them if everybody's honest, right? Somewhere around that neighborhood. It's become a little bit dilutive, maybe 10. But the bottom line is 90% of them didn't buy. So all of a sudden you get to the month of August 1st, and most salespeople and even dealerships forget about the July leads. It's like, no. None of those people bought. What are you talking about? The average time it takes me to make a decision to buy a car might be 12 or 13 weeks. I might be just in the throes of things right now. But our salespeople too often are saying, boss, I need a hit. I need August leads. Oh, those July leads, that were no good. The June ones were no good. It's crazy. What do you do to shift the mentality in salespeople and just dealerships as a whole, that just changing your whole view of the world and how you look at leads?
Yeah, well, let me give you two things. So first of all, I use that breakdown of small numbers, right? So 1% of traffic converts to a lead. And then if you're like a world-class dealer, you're closing 10 to 15% of leads. So you literally are like 10 to 15% of 1%, like that's your leads. And like we're spending all this time and energy on that. And so one of our tech builds was we went out and built our own CRM on a Salesforce platform, which is, getting commercialized right now. And that strategy is around, what we call leads and opportunities. And that's where we think, maybe bringing the whole conversation together, this is when you need to utilize AI, the proper data structures to have the proper conversations with the proper follow-ups, that with the proper guests. And so today our teams, instead of working on just leads, they work on opportunities. And so every lead that comes into our system, our team may see 50% of them, 60% of them, 20% of them, because if there is not a propensity for the customer to write back, have a proper conversation, we don't need our humans, the team that is going to essentially do the end sale. We don't want them, making all these different phone calls and to someone that's never going to answer the phone or answer an email.
Jeremy, you're talking about the difference, which nobody talks about, the difference between a suspect and a prospect. Let the AI follow the suspects until they become a prospect. Let the humans follow the prospects.
That's right. So we have leads and opportunities. So our team only works on the opportunities, which is someone that can engage. So they talk to a lot less people. They now have higher closing ratios. They also have better conversations. The guest has a better experience because our team has more time instead of making 50 phone calls a day and getting a hold of one person. And that's, a pretty big deal on the tech that's there. And that's using, again, a modern stack, which is a Salesforce strategy. And then, that's what the modern retail world uses. It's not automotive tech, but we've made it into automotive tech that's there. And so I think that's pretty fun. I think those are some of the items. But in general, when, many of these dealers have hundreds of thousands, whether leads or service ROs or owners, like that's where you want to utilize. That's where we're going to get to an industry where marketing is going to become cheaper because it's going to become one-to-one. And it's going to become where an OEM can say, well, David's always bought Mercedes and he's just about time. Let's send him a personalized offer to go back to this dealership. Or look, let's pull his lease ahead by 3 months and give him a new one. Like that's where if we really get smart using the data, it's going to be better for the dealerships, better for the OEM, but really the end result is going to be better for the consumer, which is they're going to love the brand and the experience more. And when more and more people love their car buying and car servicing experience, it's going to be better for us all. That's for sure.
Listen,
in my opinion.
I feel like I could turn this into a mini series because I'm not even close to done yet. But obviously, I want to respect your time. We're getting closer to the top of the hour. So, do you mind if I go into for lack of a better term, kind of like a game show speed round? All right, I got to start with this. What's the name of your CRM?
Today it is called Dealer Cloud.
Today it's called Dealer Cloud. What would it be called tomorrow?
Depends how it all rolls. I got to get myself not in trouble.
I'm okay with that. Okay, that's as close to a TMZ kind of a revelation. Caught you coming out of a club or something, type of a deal. All right. So the second question I have for you is relative to AI in general. Where do you think? What do you think is the most likely way that dealerships may be prone to making a mistake with respect to AI? AI solutions that are out there today.
I think trying to utilize multiple systems and not understanding where that first set of data runs through. So, they're AI models that are talking to just general consumers without history. That's just going to use essentially normal AI models of having conversational AI. I think marketing AI, if you're only using, one set of history and it's not, a good set of data, then you're going to send the wrong message to the wrong customer at the wrong time. And so I think that is probably the largest issue that we see early. I think many of the CDPs, which, there's one popping up kind of, every other week at this point, they're trying to figure that out as well, because you can have a CDP, but if the dealers cannot deliver the proper data to the CDP, then again, it's only as good as that usage that's there. I do believe that one of the large flaws that we've seen early is that utilizing conversational AI, people just click the button and say generate conversation and then don't read it. That's like the lazy way. And in general, humans, that's the hardest thing we have, is doing the same thing every single day, and we all are there. So it's a really important piece for us to go back and say, hey, read the AI, make sure the model is learning. How do we get better in that piece? So I think that's the driver
CDPs,
of what we want here.
Do you see CDPs still being around in 5 years effectively?
I think CDPs are only going to grow, but I think they're going to become more platform-based. I think that's going to be significantly, it's going to integrate into everything. The large providers are going to, have open APIs that say this is how we're going to send the fields. It's going to normalize data. But I think a CDP is going to be a standard and go-to-market strategy.
Oh, I lost you. You came back into focus. I like that.
Better.
So do you think legacy companies like CDK, are going to finally pivot into more of an open API environment because they frankly need to? And I mean, at some point, it's almost like the data that they're trying to keep in a closed environment is out there, and it's going to get accessed through an AI environment. Do you think they fundamentally shift?
I think their mindset right now is really right. We know the leadership team over there. They're a big partner of ours. Actually, the guy who's running product, old Jumpstart guy. So shout out to Dave Latham, who's an amazing automotive technologist. And so they are thinking about it right. They are focusing on it. Now, it's just a matter of saying and doing what you can do and the time frame that it gets there. But I think that it is top of mind awareness, I think, from what we understand on their business.
Search, as we know it today, is already changing dramatically. Some say that as much as 30% of search is already being done in an AI environment and not through a traditional old school Google Bing kind of environment. In a Google Bing environment, you search for something, it's going to go out there and basically look at basic data and say, hey, here's a place where you could get an oil change near you, right? For example, or here's a restaurant near you, a taco place near you. But if I say, hey, I'm looking for a new dealership and I want you to look at dealerships, they're going to look at something and say, well, here's a dealership that actually, based on reviews that are out there, appears to act consistently with what they promise, or they actually give the trade value that they committed to, or they happen to have a positive reputation in this area, or in other words, it is a different level of search. Do you see the AI approach as it becomes simpler and simpler, reduced to simple, as you said? What you're trying to do internally, that seems to be happening with AI. Do you see that fundamentally changing search, SEO?
I do. I think the personalized search and the journey that is essentially more exactly what you're looking for up front can actually become more valuable. So instead of, $2, $4, $5 a click, whatever it is, like if it was more personalized and created more actionable conversions or items that got customers to where they wanted to go faster, is even more valuable to the dealership. It's even more valuable, again, if the data is right and David goes to search for cars and then it knows that you have done business with this dealership before and you have bought 2 or 3 cars, it has the ability to serve it up and their nearest competitor if you didn't like it or something like that. And so, car buying is a very fickle thing. It, has a lot of ups and downs and ebbs and flows. It's inventory based, it's experience based, it's pricing based. So, and it's also very location based for many people that want to have somewhere they can service their vehicle. So that life cycle is really, really critical. If we knew that by search you were shopping for a car, we would like to use our CDP and our marketing engine to reignite you into a conversation to have a proper strategy to get you back in to buy a car or service a car. And so I think there's ways to go to get there, but that is what we think the Holy Grail could be.
Last 2 questions. So you're a family guy as well. You mentioned Dennis is a great family guy. You're a family guy. Shout out to your family. Your family. You have 2 kids. You mentioned.
I got 2 kids. I got an A+ amazing wife who literally keeps me all on track, and a 6 and a 4-year-old, Caden and Jordan, who are world class.
I love it. So when you talk about a why, man, there's just no better why than that, right? What you do, and how you do what you do is, I'm sure, driven every single day, not just from the DG side, but clearly, largely because of what you do for your dear wife and your boys.
Well, I think it's my wife. She has the hard job. I get to go to work every day. She's got to raise those kiddos, and I try to stay out of the way and not get in trouble.
She's got the 24/7 job, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. She is working harder than.
Well, God
than
bless
anyone,
her. Last question: What was your first car, Jeremy?
My first car was a 1987 Jeep Cherokee stick shift that was 5 different colors, no airbags, wood dash, and a dent in the door because my parents said, hey, everything is earned, and we will split a car, and it was $800, and I had $400, and that's how it all started. So funny story, I used to love cars. I used to had a whole bunch of cars growing up as a kid and worked and had cars, was great, and now, have this job, and now I don't really love cars as much. I think they're cool and great, but, I drive to the golf course, the airport, and my house. That's pretty much, where I'm at. So cars are not as cool to me as they once were, but, you got to love them, especially the industry.
By the way, the franchises you guys represent are?
Got Ford, Volkswagen, GMC, a couple Chevy stores, Kia, Subaru, a couple Mazda stores, Hyundai, Audi, Cadillac, Honda. So we don't have Toyota, Lexus, Mercedes, BMW. For those listening, we're open, we're ready, we're in growth mode. So hopefully we can get those. No supercars, but we're trying to continue to grow the portfolio here in the Bay Area, which enables us to grow our team, and that's really our focus.
I called that out for a reason. Because I know you don't have Toyota, no Honda, no Mercedes, no BMW. Oh, you have Honda.
We do have Honda.
No Mercedes,
we have a great Honda.
no Lexus.
Yeah.
But, you've got a lot of fine franchises out there. I'm a huge fan of Mazda, by the way. I think Kia does an extraordinary job overall. Obviously, Ford's in a really phenomenal position, especially with respect to the big, beautiful bill and the wonderful ways that's going to help some people deduct interest they weren't able to do before. But I just love the fact that you've got franchises out there that are not necessarily all like what people would consider those tier 1, but you can take any franchise and put it in a tier 1 organization and it becomes tier 1. You could take any employee, in my mind, and if they're in the right environment, they will become tier 1, right? By virtue of great culture, as you mentioned, great technology being fused in there, great processes, and great leadership. And you, my friend, you and Sean, obviously Dennis, no less Dennis as well, but you guys are tremendous leaders in the industry. We very much appreciate what you do to put such a positive imprint on this industry, and wish you nothing but just extraordinary success for you and every one of your 1,000 associates going forward. Thank you for taking the time to join me, Jeremy.
Well, thank you for having it. Thank you for everything that you have done. We've been friends for a long time, so really easy to get on and chat, but you have made such an impact on our organization and everything from technology to just general thoughts to everything. We are extremely grateful for the friendship and partnership, and it's nothing really starts and ends here without our team. And so, while Sean and I have a great vision and try to make an impact, it's our team that makes the difference every single day. And we're so proud of them and proud of the journey ahead. So thanks for having me.
And everybody who took the time, and my pleasure, and thank you for the kind words. For everybody who took the time to listen, thank you. Truly, thank you so much for giving us your time. I trust that you got massive value from Jeremy's story, from the DGDG story, and from some of the things that they do that's so extraordinary. Many of them so different, I hate to say stepping outside the lines, but definitely breaking down the box and considering the power of failure, failing fast, trying new things, innovating, but doing all of those things while never, ever doing it at the cost of their culture or doing what's right for both their associates and their customers. So thank you for taking the time to join. If you'd like to share Jeremy and the DGDG story out, please take the time to do so. Subscribe, download, and please leave reviews, good, bad, or ugly ones. I like them all. I learn from them all. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time on the David Spisak Show. Thanks so much.